And this is lesson 25 in our 26-lesson course entitled Leadership at the Points of Contact. In these last 4 lessons, I am describing for you what I see as characteristics of how success is achieved and sustained in the real world. And keep in mind from the one we discussed last, a little bit of theory and a lot of effort, that the real world is the operational world. It's the tactical world. It's where you function in your leadership role. So how can you expect the suggestions that I made when you implement? How can you expect these things to produce the results for which you began? And that's what these 4 characteristics relate to. The first one we said was progressively. That success is achieved over time, not overnight. And the second thing we talked about where progressively is concerned is that in order for processes to produce the results for which they were begun, you've got to persevere beyond the point at which the new wears off those processes. And the new wears off processes long before they produce the results for which they were begun. That's a leadership function, to ensure that you and your associates persevere beyond the point at which the new wears off, progressively. The second one, again, a little bit of theory and a lot of effort. I think the way I summed it up in the last lesson went like this: people can pretend to be committed to winning, but people can't pretend to do the things necessary to win. That we have to, at some point, transition from ideas to action. And that brings us to the third characteristic. When we demonstrate our commitment to achieving and sustaining success by taking action, what we're going to realize is that true success is also achieved as a result of some success and some failure. In our culture, we seem to have a notion of success or failure as being diametrically opposed. I'm convinced that in reality, it should be success and failure. That failure is an inherent part of success. Here's what I mean. In the real world, would you say setbacks are possible, are probable, or inevitable? Now, if you think about that, I'm guessing that you would come up with the same answer I would, and that's inevitable, that setbacks happen. And if you take this discussion to the next level, and you view it or answer that question from the perspective of someone who is facilitating what I call the relentless search for better ways. In other words, you and your associates are aggressively pursuing success. Do you think you and your associates are going to encounter more or fewer setbacks than your more timid contemporaries? Now think about this for a minute. If we look at organizational performance, processes, leadership, actions, the things that people do, I think, and strategies, I think we can see that there are some organizations that seem to be taking a more playing not to lose approach to the changing external factors they encounter than others that are taking a play to win. Now, what is the distinction? The key distinction, I think, between these two approaches is a willingness to take what? A willingness to take risks. When you, through your efforts as a leader, facilitate the relentless search for better ways, would you agree that you and your associates are truly taking a more aggressive approach? And when you do, would you agree? And if you don't now, you will very shortly after beginning to facilitate this relentless search for better ways, because what you're going to find is the incident of mistakes and setbacks is going to increase. Because why? Because you are more aggressive in your pursuit of better ways. Here's the way I would sum up this third of the 4 characteristics, some success and some failure. And I'll do so in the context of the 3 leadership roles we've talked about. Success and failure will characterize your efforts to, 1, create hero-friendly cultures. Success and failure will characterize your efforts to 2, expand and enhance employee engagement. And success and failure will characterize your efforts to, number 3, facilitate continuous process improvement. Now, obviously, you could plug in anything you wanted to at the end of that sentence. Success and failure will characterize your efforts to achieve and sustain success. Here's the keeper. Here's the real takeaway. Your commitment to doing so. Your commitment to creating those cultures. Your commitment as a leader to expanding and enhancing engagement. Your commitment to continuous process improvement is best measured by your responses to your failures. Here are the action items for this lesson. I want you and the members of your leadership team to make a list of what you consider your top organizational accomplishments over the past, let's say, year or so. 2, I want you to reflect back on those achievements, and I want you to make note of the setbacks you encountered, the mistakes you and your associates made along the way. And finally, number 3, as you embark on future initiatives, as you surely will, you should recall this exercise and explain to your associates that they, all of you, can expect to encounter setbacks, to make mistakes in your efforts to implement those initiatives. The action items here for this lesson speak not only to where we are now, but they are designed to help you set yourself up to achieve and sustain success going forward. And I encourage you to complete those. We'll pick up there with our last lesson.